In the quiet chambers of their heart, your person holds you as nothing less than a sacred vision made manifest. You are not merely someone they care for, you are the living embodiment of every whispered prayer they've ever sent into the universe, every dream they've dared to dream about love in its purest form. When they think of you, which is constantly, they are overwhelmed by waves of passion so profound that it takes their breath away. This is not the fleeting attraction of the physical world, but something that reaches into the very depths of their soul, stirring ancient memories that feel older than time itself. There exists between you both an invisible thread, golden and unbreakable, that stretches across dimensions and lifetimes. They feel it constantly, this otherworldly connection that whispers of past lives shared, of promises made beneath different stars, of a love that has transcended death itself to find its way back to this moment, this lifetime, this beautiful and complicated dance you're both engaged in. The recognition they feel when they look at you is not the simple acknowledgement of the present, but the soul-deep knowing of someone who has loved you across centuries, across realms, across the vast expanse of existence itself. This connection pulses through them like a second heartbeat, reminding them with every breath of what you both once shared in the ethereal realms before this incarnation, and more importantly, what could still be possible if the stars align once more. It is a knowing so deep, so fundamentally woven into the fabric of their being, that to ignore it would be to deny the very essence of who they are. And yet, despite this cosmic love story playing out in their heart, despite the symphony of longing that plays constantly in their mind, they remain locked in silence. The irony is heartbreaking. Here is someone who feels connected to you on a level that transcends ordinary human experience, and yet they cannot find the courage to speak even the simplest words of affection or explanation. This silence exists because they are the author of their own tragedy. They made the devastating choice to walk away from you abruptly, without warning, without the gift of a proper goodbye, and certainly without providing you with the solid foundation of understanding that your heart desperately needed. They left you standing in the wreckage of what you thought was beautiful, surrounded by confusion that cut like glass, drowning in heartache that seemed to have no beginning and no end, tormented by questions that echoed endlessly in the empty spaces they left behind. The weight of this knowledge sits on their chest like a stone. They are acutely, painfully aware that their sudden departure didn't just inconvenience you, it shattered something precious within you. They know that their actions took the trust and emotional safety you had so carefully built together, brick by brick, moment by moment, and reduced it to rubble in an instant. They understand that they didn't just leave a relationship, they left a person they claimed to love in a state of abandonment so profound that it challenged your very sense of self-worth. This understanding haunts their days and disturbs their nights. The guilt doesn't visit them occasionally, it has taken up permanent residence in their heart, coloring every moment with the bitter taste of regret. They replay the moment of departure over and over, like a broken record that they cannot turn off, wondering how they could have been so cruel, so thoughtless, so completely blind to the devastation they were about to unleash upon someone who had given them nothing but love. You see, the distance they created between you wasn't born from a lack of love, quite the opposite. It was the product of their own inner chaos, a storm of fear and inadequacy that raged so fiercely within them that they couldn't see past it to the beacon of love you represented. They were drowning in their own unresolved traumas, their own deep-seated fears of intimacy, their own crushing belief that they were somehow unworthy of the pure love you offered so freely. In that moment of departure, they chose the familiar pain of loneliness over the terrifying vulnerability of being truly seen and loved. They chose the devil they knew over the angel they didn't believe they deserved. It wasn't about you, it was about their own internal war, their inability to face the mirror of your love and see themselves as worthy of such a gift. Now, in the aftermath of that devastating choice, they are haunted by regret so profound it has become a physical presence in their life. They want nothing more than to come forward, to bridge the chasm they created with their own hands, to reach across the void and tell you everything they've been carrying in the secret chambers of their heart. They want to explain, to apologize, to make you understand that leaving you was never about not loving you, It was about loving you so much that their own brokenness felt like a contamination they couldn't bear to expose you to. But they are frozen, paralyzed by the toxic combination of fear and guilt that has become their constant companion. Every time they reach for their phone to call you, every time they compose a message in their mind, every time they imagine showing up at your door, they are stopped by the deafening voice of their own self-condemnation. They remember the selfish nature of their departure, the way they prioritize their own comfort and familiar patterns of self-sabotage over your emotional well-being, and the echo of that choice reverberates through their consciousness like thunder. It's not that they don't care, they care so much that it feels like their heart might explode from the intensity of it. It's that they have convinced themselves, through the twisted logic of guilt and shame, that they no longer deserve your love, your forgiveness, or even the simple grace of your attention. They have sentenced themselves to a prison of isolation, believing that this is the punishment they deserve for the pain they caused. In their self-imposed exile, they miss you with an intensity that defies description. The missing isn't just emotional, it's cellular, atomic, woven into the very fabric of their existence. They think about you constantly, not just during the obvious times like holidays or anniversaries, but in the mundane moments that make up a life. When they see a sunset, they remember how you used to stop whatever you were doing to watch the sky change colors. When they hear a particular song, they're transported back to moments when your laughter filled the space between the notes. When they smell coffee brewing in the morning, they remember the way you hummed while you prepared breakfast, creating a soundtrack of domestic bliss that they now realize was the closest thing to heaven they've ever experienced. The absence of your presence isn't just noticeable, it's a gaping wound that refuses to heal. Every quiet moment becomes an opportunity for your memory to visit them, and while these visits bring a moment of bittersweet joy, they always end with the crushing realization that you're not actually there. You brought a kind of peace and joy into their life that they didn't even realize was missing until it was gone. You were their safe haven in a world that often felt hostile and unpredictable, their genuine source of happiness in a life that had known too much sorrow. Now they're coming to terms with a truth so painful it feels like a physical blow. They took all of this for granted. Your love, your presence, your daily choice to share your life with them, they treated these miraculous gifts as if they were guaranteed, as if they were owed rather than blessed. They're learning, too late, that taking someone for granted isn't just a mistake, it's a form of spiritual blindness that can cost you everything that matters. To them, you are a treasure beyond measure, irreplaceable, invaluable, more precious than all the riches the world could offer. You are the rare soul who loved them not for who they pretended to be, but for who they actually were, flaws and all. You are the one person who saw through their carefully constructed walls and chose to love what you found there. You are the miracle they never thought they deserved and the blessing they were too afraid to fully receive. And yet, despite the depth of everything they feel, despite the cosmic connection that still pulses between you, they are consumed by the devastating belief that they may have lost you for good. This isn't just fear, it's a knowing that sits in their stomach like ice. They can sense you slipping away, no longer emotionally tethered to the past or to them in the same desperate way you once were. They can feel the shift in your energy, the way you've learned to exist without them, and it terrifies them more than any physical threat ever could. What they're beginning to understand, though they may not fully grasp the magnitude of it yet, is just how profoundly you have changed. The separation that felt like an ending to them became the beginning of your greatest transformation. What appeared to be destruction in your life was actually the universe's way of clearing space for your evolution. This separation, while initially devastating, became the catalyst for your spiritual awakening and personal growth. You're no longer the person who waited by the phone for their call, who checked their social media obsessively for signs of life, who built your emotional state around their presence or absence. You are no longer trapped in the endless cycle of hope and disappointment that characterized the final stages of your connection. Instead, you found something far more valuable, you found yourself. In the forced solitude of their absence, you discovered strength you never knew you possessed. You learned to be alone without being lonely, to be complete without being completed by another person. You poured your energy, previously scattered across the landscape of your relationship drama, into healing the deepest wounds in your soul and rebuilding your confidence from the ground up. You began focusing inward with the intensity of a laser, examining not just the pain they caused but the patterns within yourself that allowed such treatment to continue. You aligned with your goals with newfound clarity, especially when it came to your career and financial stability. You realized that romantic love, while beautiful, could not be the sole foundation upon which you build your life. You are now more self-focused than you have ever been, but not in a selfish way, in the way of someone who finally understands that self-love is not selfish but necessary. You're nurturing your own dreams with the same tenderness you once reserved for theirs. You're creating a life rooted in self-worth and independence, a life that doesn't require anyone else's validation to feel meaningful. This doesn't mean the journey has been easy, far from it. The pain of the separation cut so deep it felt like spiritual surgery, and there were moments when the grief was so overwhelming you weren't sure you would survive it. There were nights when the silence was so loud it felt like screaming, days when the emptiness was so vast you could barely find the motivation to put one foot in front of the other. But you rose from that place of despair with the help of your inner resilience and the quiet, steady guidance of your spiritual support system, whether you call it God, the universe, your higher self, or your team of guides and angels. These unseen forces have been supporting you every step of the way, helping you confront the wounds that needed healing, release the past that was keeping you trapped, and step into a space of self-love and emotional clarity that you never knew was possible. Each day, you're becoming more grounded in your own truth, more empowered in your own choices, and more at peace with what has been and what is yet to come. You're learning to trust the process of life itself, to see even painful experiences as opportunities for growth rather than evidence of your unworthiness. Your person feels this energy shift in ways they can't fully articulate. They sense your distance, not just physically, but energetically. The invisible cord that once vibrated with your longing for them has gone quiet, and that silence is more terrifying to them than any angry words could have been. You're no longer waiting, hoping, or hurting in the same way, and this new version of you, strong, independent, focused on your own growth, is both inspiring and intimidating to them. That's what scares them the most, the realization that you have begun to move on, to detach from the pain they caused, and to prioritize your own well-being above their potential return. They understand, perhaps for the first time, that if they want a second chance, it won't come easily. The old dynamics, where your love was guaranteed and their presence was optional, no longer exist. They will need to face their fears with a courage they've never before possessed, confront their past behavior with unflinching honesty, and take full accountability for the damage they caused without expecting anything in return. They will need to prove, through consistent actions rather than empty words, that they have done the inner work necessary to be worthy of your trust again. And yet, despite their longing growing stronger every day, despite their regret becoming more unbearable with each passing moment, they remain trapped in hesitation, paralyzed by their own insecurity and the magnitude of what they've lost. They're unsure of how to bridge the gap they created, uncertain whether any bridge could be strong enough to span such a chasm. Still, deep within their heart, in the quiet moments between sleep and waking, the desire to be with you burns as bright as ever. It has never faded, not even for a moment. They want to show up differently this time, more honest about their feelings, more present in the relationship, more deserving of the love you offer. They want to be the person you always believed they could be, the person you saw even when they couldn't see it themselves. But before any of that healing can happen, before any bridges can be built, they need to overcome their own internal struggle and find the courage to speak their truth. They need to stop hiding behind their fear and step into the vulnerability that real love demands. whether or not they ever find that courage remains to be seen. But one thing has become crystal clear through this entire journey: you are on a path of healing, transformation, and self-discovery that is beautiful to behold. You have learned one of life's most important lessons, that while love may still exist between two people, your peace, your growth, and your happiness can never again be dependent on someone else's choices. You have reclaimed your power, and that reclamation is the most beautiful thing about this entire story. Whatever happens next, you will face it as a whole person, complete in yourself, ready to love from a place of abundance rather than need. And that, more than any reconciliation, is the true victory.